Good morning, True Thought Spiritual Community. Good morning, beloveds. Good morning to you and happy Valentine's Day. It is my greatest desire, my greatest joy to connect with you in this moment, and how grateful I am that you are taking the time to connect with me. And so what I would like to do is to begin with a moment of prayer and silence, to turn within and to connect in heart and mind. Let's turn within and pause together for a holy instant. And if it's comfortable, allow the body eyes to close, to take a few conscious breaths, allowing the self to become present to the now moment, to the infinite now moment in which God is, love is, beauty is, that this presence is everywhere, and how grateful I am for this divine moment of anchoring it, giving it my full attention and appreciation in the stillness right now. God and I are one. The beloved and I are one. That love is my identity. It is my source. It is my joy. It is my peace. How grateful I am to live, move, and have my being in love, as love. And to remember that I am indeed an extension and an expression of the all that is, a wave to the ocean, the sunbeam to the sun. And that as I recognize this for myself, my divine self, the Christed aspect of my mind, I remember that that is true for all of my beloved brothers and sisters, that we join in this consciousness, all beautiful, magnificent, beloved rays of light, of love. We join in this consciousness. I bless this time. I call it good and very good. Something wonderful is happening. I invite you to place the hand before the heart and say to the self, something wonderful is happening. Something wonderful is unfolding as me today. I am the beloved, and I extend this light and love to all who come into my vibration, my experience this day. This is the best Valentine that I give, is my love. And I give it freely, joyously, happily. And as I do so, it returns to me fulfilled. And I celebrate it this day. And taking a breath, I say, and so it is, and so I let it be. And so allowing the body eyes to open and to gaze around wherever you find yourself, and to just know that you are the illuminator of love this day, wherever you are, and it matters. You matter. And this vibratory field that we've just anchored matters. And so thank you again for being here. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to you. And today I would like to have a conversation about the idea of the very best Valentine's gift that could ever be given. And that's what our conversation is about today. And so here at True Thought, what we do is that we speak a language of love. We speak in a language that is a representation of a unified field, a unified thought system, and it is the thought system of love. And so it's really great to open this conversation on Valentine's Day today. And so I want to lay some of the principles down just to remind us. It is said that love points the way, that love is what points the way, directs us, and guides us in life. The laws, the way things work, the laws of attraction, and those type of laws, that's the way it works. But it is love that actually illuminates and points the way. It is also said that when we follow love, when we follow our heart's desires in lives, when we turn away from the conditioned world and the world of appearances, and we turn within and we court the divine within our own being, and we ask it, what would you love? And we begin to court the desire of our very own heart. What happens is that it guides us and leads us perfectly. It's as if it is a thread of desire that leads us directly to the heart and mind of God, because it is the love energy that is creative in our world. It is love that creates. It is also said that God and love, that Creator and love are synonymous, that God is love. And that if God created all that is in its image and likeness, then all is an extension and an expression of love energy and love intelligence itself. And that includes you. That includes me. And that includes all who are in our families and in our network of relationship. If we were to look at all of the love songs and the love poems, for instance, the Rumi poems, Rumi writing about his beloved in form, but when we look beyond that those very words can be symbolic of love of God, of love of Creator, of love of life, of love of Source. That those very words are appropriate to speak of God and to speak of ourselves and one another. It is also said, and this is by Rumi, that it is our task not to seek for love, but merely to find all of the barriers within ourselves that we have built against it. A Course in Miracles says it in a slightly different way. It says that the whole point of A Course in Miracles is to remove the obstacles to the awareness of the presence of love. That only love is real, and everything that is unlike love is unreal, is illusion. And further, that there is truly no opposite to love, because what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. But in this experience, we will say that unloving thoughts, or thoughts of fear, thoughts that emanate from a disunified thought system, from a thought system of separation, would be its opposite if love truly had an opposite. And so our journey here and on this day is to remove those obstacles to the awareness of the presence of love. The awareness of the presence of love is the awareness of our divine identity. If God is love and love is all there is, then our true identity is love as well. And that our whole journey here is a journey back to the remembrance of love and truly to self-love. I would call the experience and the expression of love being in the consciousness of heaven. That heaven is love is the extension and expression of love, is the identity of each of us being loved, loving, and lovable forever, into infinity, expansive, of being that light. Conversely, then, I would say hell is a state of consciousness in which there appears or seems to be an absence of love. It is a state of fear. It is rife with guilt and punishment and concepts and ideas of sin, of sickness, of death. It is a world that has been made in error outside of that unified field of thought. And anything that represents that, all of the symbols of those things, the sin, the sickness, the death, the disease, the chaos, the fear, are all illusions that we experience. Now, they come across our consciousness and our awareness to wake us up, to help us to remember, to awaken from that nightmare and to return to love. I am saying that loving thoughts are heaven and unloving thoughts are hell, and that our divine nature is that we abide in heaven, in love, because that is who and what we are. So to step outside of that unified thought system of love and to be in a world that is disunified, that is outside of that unified field, takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy. It's exhausting. It goes against the grain. It goes against our nature. And so therefore, it is those fearful and unloving thoughts that lead us down a pathway that leads us to a nightmare that feels hellish, that leads to the conditions in which the ideas of sin, sickness, death arise. It also stifles our creativity. Remember, I talked about creativity and love being that creative life force, that energy, and we follow that thread of desire, of love. But the fearful thoughts constrict and take the life out of our creative energy. And I'm here to say that when we live a lifetime of unloving thoughts or fearful thoughts or according to conditioned thinking, we have lived a life in which we've stifled our own creativity. And in so doing, we're exhausted. And that is when we have worry and depression and so on. And it just proliferates from there. So I want to share that it's almost as if we've become unconsciously addicted to what I'm going to say are unloving thoughts, are ways that lead down that thought system. What are unloving thoughts? They are thoughts of worry. They're thoughts of regret. So worry about the future, regret about the past. They're thoughts that lead to separation, to gossip, to opinionating and criticizing. And then what happens as we begin to hold unloving thoughts about ourselves and about others, we have an experience of being separated. Now, we may join with other people according to opinions and thought forms that are negative, but we are then only experiencing a false sense of intimacy, not based on love, but based on unloving thought systems. And what it does is we might join together, but then we join together and we create what I would call the echo chambers and tribalism and us versus them. You see, love is a very simple way of living. And it's what we are here to be and do. And to be love and to be loving is the greatest Valentine gift that we can give to one another. And guess what? It begins within. It begins with looking at how our thoughts are regarding ourselves. Now, I want to share a story with you. And in this story, it's going to sound like it doesn't pertain at all, but it's a story that I usually use as an illustration for prosperity and for abundance and the juxtaposition of abundance consciousness versus lack consciousness. But the same thing can apply here. So let me share it with you. In this story, it's back in 2003. And I had had the vision. I had followed my heart. And my heart's desire was to leave the type of work that I was doing and to follow the call to ministry. And for me, that began with becoming a religious science practitioner, a spiritual counselor, if you will, one who is trained to look beyond the appearances of the world and to anchor truth principles, and to do so through the healing modality of prayer. And so in order to do that, I followed my heart and I moved rather abruptly from Kansas City, and I moved to Los Angeles, California. And in this story, there I am in LA, a very expensive place to live. And I had released my job that I had back in Kansas City. And I didn't have a job for a while, but I had really good credit. And I would receive letters from the credit card companies, and they were kind of like so friendly. They're like, "Congratulations, you've been approved." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've been approved for what?" And, they were basically giving me credit. And I started to use these credit cards as a way to live. It didn't take very long for me to rack up some considerable debt. Now, this debt was a means in which I felt that I needed to partake of in order to survive in my current experience and the experience that I was having. It started out slowly. It was one transaction and then another, and then another, and then another card, and it built. And it built to a point where I was paying 19, 20, 25% interest on the debt, which was at that time about $50,000, a tremendous amount for me. And I started to feel buried beneath this debt, which represented a lack consciousness, which became a hellish nightmare for me while I was in it. It was as if I would wake up with an elephant sitting on my chest and I could not breathe. And I remember being in a spiritual community, people talking with me, and we prayed about it. And there was somebody who referred me to this thing called Debtors Anonymous. And I got this book and I read it. And how do you get out of debt? How do you get out of debt? And well, it was very simple. You stopped debting. I was instructed to stop the behavior that was creating the situation. And so one of the practices, it said, take all of your credit cards and put them in a container, fill that container with water and put it in the freezer. And the idea was to interrupt the pattern of reaching for the credit card in order to be my false sense of sustenance, in order to be what I transacted as a currency in the world. And so I remember being so afraid to do it. And so what I did is I cut a corner. I took my credit cards, I put them in a container, but I didn't put the water in it. And I put it in the freezer. Well, the person I was living with knew what I was up to, and he filled the container with water and put it in the freezer, unbeknownst to me. Some time passed, and as that time passed, something came up, and I felt that I had to use that credit card. I needed it. And I went to the freezer, and I opened the container, and it was a block of solid ice. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've really got to get these out of there. I really need it. So I put them, not being very scientific, I put this in the microwave, and I put the microwave on only to see all these sparks flying in the microwave because they're magnetic, and obviously you can't have that in the microwave. So basically, I melted and ruined my credit cards. The point of the story is, if we want to change a behavior, we stop the behavior. If we want to create a world of love, it's so simple. We stop a behavior of entertaining unloving thoughts. The unloving thoughts that we entertain become habitual, just like my using the credit card in order to transact business, in order to use debt and lack and basically borrowing against a future that didn't have anything to borrow against in order to make ends meet. So in order for us to shift from the unloving to the loving is that we simply stop participating in it. Now, it can be difficult and challenging because we're so accustomed. It's so subtle. I mean, an unloving thought can be as subtle as driving down the street and somebody doesn't drive the way you like, and when you pass them, you give them a look. Anybody ever do that? Behind that is an unloving thought. An unloving thought can be a thought of worry. An unloving thought can be a thought, an attack thought against myself. I'm too fat. I'm too old. Can't do that. That's not a skill I have. Boy, I really messed things up. Those are unloving self-attack thoughts. When we're having unloving thoughts of another, it's the very same thing as attacking ourselves. We can't get away with that. The moment we have an unloving thought toward another, there's a mechanism that's called guilt that comes right in. And there is, sometimes even it's imperceptible, but we feel it. And all of these unloving thoughts are just swarming around underneath the subjective mind in our subconscious. And they have an impact on us. The greatest gift that we can give for Valentine's Day, the greatest gift we can give to our beloved ones, our partners, our children, our coworkers, is to begin to love ourselves, to begin to stop transacting in the currency of unloving thoughts and to catch them when they rise. To catch them when they rise and say the following: this unloving thought is keeping me in hell. This unloving thought is keeping me in hell. The only way to shift the behavior is to catch it and not participate, and to recognize what it does to us. It keeps us in hell. And when I'm in hell, I'm going to pretty much make sure everybody else around me is too. our holiness, our divine identity, our love identity is our salvation from hell. It is our holiness and our innocence that delivers us from the hell of these unloving thoughts, of this ununified thought system, of the echo chambers, of the tribalism, of the insanity. It is my holiness and your holiness, one moment, one breath, one thought at a time, of arresting the unloving thoughts, of putting them on ice, and remembering it is our holiness that is our salvation, our innocence, our deliverance from hell to heaven. What is that? If we don't like that terminology, it's a miracle. It's a shift of perception, and it is that simple. And so I'm going to invite us to imagine that we take those unloving thoughts as we become aware of them, and we put them in that container, and we put that water, and we put them in the freezer, and we put them on ice. And soon we begin to forget about that. Soon we begin to let it go. Soon we begin to operate in the only real currency that there is, and that is the currency of love. It is the only thing that gives truly and contains no loss whatsoever to anyone. It's the true justice. It's God's justice system, is to love, because all gain and there is no loss. This is the best gift ever that you can give this Valentine's Day, to love yourself so much, to practice this. And as you practice it with yourself, practice it with your beloved. Give it as the gift, and know that it just keeps giving, and that you only gain, that there is no loss whatsoever. Love the Lord your God, our God. Love God with your whole heart, your whole soul, your whole being, and then love yourself as you love your brothers and sisters. You are the fulcrum point. I am the fulcrum point, and necessary to be the practitioners of love and loving thoughts, and to begin to abstain from unloving thoughts. Be your own Valentine this Valentine's Day. Be your own. Not going to come from anywhere out there. It emanates from you. Be your own Valentine, and be the best gift then that you can be to your beloved and beloveds in your life. I love you. God bless you. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you again soon. Namaste.